Senator Black. Senator Niall Donnghaile, please.
Thank you. And just a couple of quick observations, Chair, and then the one question from me. I want to reiterate everyone's thanks in terms of the presentation today. It's been a tough meeting, to be quite honest. I've been a member of this Justice Committee for close to 3 years now, and I have to tell you, I think Christopher made probably one of the most insightful and thoughtful contributions I've heard at this committee, and to then see him in the condition that he's in now, hearing some of these stories, I think is a bit of a wake-up call, certainly for us, on a dose of reality. I have my view on direct provision, to be honest, and it's not much good to use what my view is, to be honest, because you're living it, and you've articulated the experience of that very vividly today. I'm not as kind as my colleague, Senator Black. I think the government parties aren't represented here today. The government party isn't represented here today because they don't really care. They know full well the situation in the direct provision, because this isn't the first meeting like this. These meetings and presentations and engagements have happened consistently over a long period of years. So I think there's a dose of unfortunate reality that we need to consider as we all collectively move forward, that there are people within Irish society, Irish life, Irish government, who think it is okay that people are locked away in direct provision, think it's fine, who put the interests of private companies ahead of human beings, who think the culture that prevailed during, as Francis said, the period of the Magdalen laundries is actually, it's kind of okay now because we're not doing it on Irish people, even though the same government oversees children sleeping in hotel rooms, children who are born here. So that's a culture I think we have to realise, and before we can deal with addressing and hopefully get to the stage where we abolish direct provision, I think that's a sad, unfortunate fact of Irish life that we need to challenge. Because for me, to be quite honest, I think this committee's report could and probably should consist of today's meeting. Because with the greatest respect, not to take away from any other contributors, but I think the most important people in all of this that need to be heard are yourselves. I have a whole lot more I could say, but I'm very conscious of time for yourselves and for other colleagues. The question I have is, the Chair, as Senator Black rightly acknowledged, who we're very lucky to have in this regard, will lead a delegation from this committee in visiting a number of direct provision centres next month. And I remember, not to be facetious about it, but I remember when you were at school and there was inspectors or anybody coming in to visit the school, you used to be told to, buck up your ideas and tidy up and, put on a good show. So I would ask you to be as frank as you can be, and tell us what we should be looking out for, what questions we should be asking. Your contributions today, I'm sure, will inform those of us who are going on that trip in terms. But if there are any specifics there that we should be looking out for and asking on the day, then be sure and certain we'll ask it. But if there's anything beyond what you've said already this morning, then please do let us know. And certainly I don't want to come across as being too negative there. I always go in hope. I'm always one for, Jim, who works in my office, always says light a candle as opposed to curse the dark. And certainly I think we can get to a situation where we sort this stain out, because I think it is a stain on Irish society, that this is how we're treating a nation of immigrants and asylum seekers for generations, who went all over the world seeking refuge and seeking support. And I think it's a great shame, and I think if that's the message that can go from this meeting today, is that when there's people out there trying to exploit fear and ignorance and hatred, then we're duty bound to help try and inform people out there of what our fellow human beings are going through, and to shine that light on what's happening in direct provision. So I'm very grateful to you for taking the opportunity. I wish we could do more. I wish I could give you the answer today, to be quite frank. But certainly, from our perspective and looking around the table, you have members here, TDs and senators, who will do their very best. But the reality is we're up against it. You're up against it. But going forward, we're up against it and breaking a political culture that thinks it's okay to do this. And I think that's certainly the greatest shame moving forward.
Thank you very much. We would welcome that.
That's fair.
Okay. Senator Lawless, I want to say you're very welcome to have joined us here this morning. There are no other indications. Yes, Lucky.
I just want to make a comment from the Senator there. I'm glad you have this idea of visiting the centres, very much important. And you were in your remarks there, you were saying that the people that obviously happy with the current status quo. And I would say that if I had a hotel that has been standing for 2 years, not getting any money from it, and through the arrivals of the people who seek protection, and the justice gives me the opportunity to use that hotel, and suddenly my account is on a plus and going, I'll be very happy.
Absolutely.
I'll be very, very happy. One of the suggestions that when you go to the centers, do not tell anybody. Go. You'll
Unfortunately, that isn't unfortunately the way it will unfold. But we will keep our eyes wide open, and we will be conscious, like the analogy offered of the school inspector, that everything will be bright and shiny on the day.
That's good.
But your questions, your points that you might share with us in the interim period will be helpful. So, Rosemary, you're going to get the last word here. Well, I thought it would be Christopher. I don't know why.
Okay, I don't have on top of my head to say like what questions specifically you can ask, but I would suggest like when you meet with the managers, also try to have time privately either to meet with the residents or to meet with people who are working, like the local community who are working with the resident. Because my understanding, like where I come from, the center I'm in, the manager will tell you everything is perfect, everything is well, but things are not okay. You go in the kitchen, you're going to be told, okay, here's the kitchen, people are cooking and all that. But in the center that I'm in, mothers are struggling to go and cook their meals because they've got their small babies. They can't go with the babies in the kitchen. And by the time they find someone to mind their babies, the kitchen is closed. But if you go there during the day, you find the kitchen is functional, and you're going to have that impression that everyone is cooking. And then issues of transport. If you go there, you're going to be told, okay, we provide transport here. But our transport is being provided by different private sector as well. So we have to beg. Like just last week, we tried to keep active as much as we can. So I tried to register a couple of people for the upcoming local elections because that's one of the only rights that we have and we need to use it. So we register the people and we ask for the bus to take us. And the bus, I was told the bus will pick people at 10 o'clock in the morning and leave them at the polling station and come and pick them at 11. Now, the polling station is only like less than 10 minutes away. And Imo is not a busy place, so you're just going in quick, you vote, you're coming out like within 5 minutes. So you're having people to wait for the bus to keep them for 40 minutes. And I asked one of the employers there, I said, why did you do like this? Why didn't you at least put the bus to pick people at 11 o'clock and then come and pick them up maybe around past? And he told me like, oh, we're not obliged to do this, we're just doing you a favor. And I was upset and I told him, I said, you know what, it's either you just don't do it at all. Because you're doing like this, no one is going to be on the bus, and you say people, they don't want to be active. And it goes the same thing to say integration. I'll take you back on the integration, like it's saying that, okay, asylum seekers cannot be integrated because they're not legal in the country. but then people are staying 5 years in the system. It would make sense if people are staying only a year. So really, thank you.
Thank you very much, Rosemary. Well, it leaves me